potential draft picks, when they go into a meeting and they know that team is not going to take them, they sort of mail it in. I don't know if that happened or not with Kyler Murray. I don't know how many teams that Charley Casserly spoke to about Kyler Murray, but there is that possibility. Also, the information this time of the year is hard to trust on both sides. Because Lincoln Riley, and you're going to hear, he's going to talk about Kyler Murray, a leader, how great he is, and what may have happened in these interviews. But Charley Casserly, I don't know if he's speaking to the Raiders. They would like to get him downgraded so they get a chance to get him. You know, I don't trust anybody's information who works for a team, who's with a team. I can't. Because I've learned the hard way. Everyone has an agenda. Hard to get the whole picture. But Casserly's saying that Murray had bad study habits, terrible on the whiteboard, drawing up plays. But it still goes back to how could he play so great at quarterback in college? If you're the Cardinals, you have to take what Casserly said with a grain of salt. And actually, it's a good idea to do that with all of these draft picks because you'll see them at their best. Everybody's going to say great things about them. Verbal bouquets by everybody. You know, Lincoln Riley has a lot to gain by Kyler Murray going number 1 overall. You know, Charley Casserly, I don't know if he's saying, hey, I'm getting used by somebody. Some of the best reporters I've ever been around will admit to you, sometimes privately, they've been used before. Even Chris Mortensen, the great Chris Mortensen covering the NFL, Peter Gammons, somebody will give you information because they want the information out there and because it serves their purposes. There's a lot of agendas this time of the year.
But the one problem with this situation is Charley Casserly, who is working for the NFL Network, says he's not a good interview. And most times we see nothing. We don't see these interviews. We don't see these chalk talks or whiteboard stuff. A lot of people out there did see the interview on our show, and it gives them something to click on that says, yes, there may be smoke. There may be fire where there's smoke, that this kid is an awkward interview or off-putting. We're not saying that, but there is some type of evidence.
Well, Lincoln Riley does address that. In fact, he said to me about 40 minutes ago, Kyler Murray brought up the interview with me that we had at the Super Bowl. So you'll hear from him what Kyler Murray said about that interview or lack thereof. But that interview is being passed around by teams, front office personnel, GMs, coaches. That's happening right now because they want to see how he handled these questions that weren't difficult questions or questions that he, probably was aware they were coming his way. But he knew what he was doing, in my opinion, when he was at the Super Bowl. Because all he was looking for, from what I was told, is a first-round grade. And if I got a first-round grade, I can go in, I can play, and I can play right away instead of going to the minor leagues. I don't love baseball. I'm good at baseball. I love football. He got a taste of stardom, and I was told that if he got a first-round grade, he was going in. Now you get a top 10. Now you get a top 5. Now you get a number 1 overall. So he's empowered by this, and he knows that he made the right decision. But you'll hear from Lincoln Riley. I did talk to a scout last night, and this is a guy who's been great. He's been upfront with me. He'll tell me sometimes when he doesn't have a grade on somebody or he hasn't looked at their tape. But talked to my source last night, and I asked him about, did you hear these Charley Casserly comments on Kyler Murray? He said, I haven't read them, but we have talked about this. Not surprised, especially after your interview and watching his dad during the interview. There's no question about his arm and athletic ability. His speed will be hard to defend. Watching Oklahoma prior to the playoffs, his arm ability is legit. 2 things that were unusual. Number 1, his drop was very deep, 10 yards, which isn't common for protection purposes in the NFL. And number 2, he really goes down easily. One thing that hasn't changed is the physicality of the hits he'll be exposed to. And then I tell him, thank you. And then he goes, also, I think that his height was inflated. Maybe it's the tinfoil hat theory. I just don't see it. If he refuses to measure at the pro day, that will be telling. So I got a lot there.
He's going to let his height stand where it is?
I guess. But that was from a former NFL scout that I spoke to last night.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.